everybody, and welcome back to my Zero Carb Life. I'm so thrilled to be here today with an amazing woman, Dana Spencer, who is also a dear friend of mine. When I first found Carnivore at Zeroing In on Health, which was not a Facebook page, it was a forum I've mentioned before. I showed up there on the page, and there was Charles Washington and Dana Spencer. And Dana had already been a carnivore, I think, about 2 years by the time I showed up. So, hey, Dana, welcome.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for having me on.
You are so welcome. And we've actually gotten to share a meal together in Charlotte. That was so much fun. My little girl, Annie, is now almost 4, and she was just a little tiny squishy thing back then. And that was such a good night. So my show notes wouldn't print, and I'm going to have to look at my phone, and it's going to look like I'm over here texting my man or something, but I'm really not. It's just my printer is having issues. All right, Dana, before we get started talking about the topic of the day, which is salt and electrolytes, I just want to know your story. And even though those of us who know you well, we know sort of how you found it, a lot of people don't, because even though you've been doing this for over a decade, 12 years now?
Yeah.
12 years. This is the first time you've come out and just told the world your story. I could not be more excited about that. So how did you become a carnivore?
By accident, really. I was, like most people, I was 40 and fat and frustrated. The turning point was I was working out 6 days a week for 6 months. And I came home and I had my earrings on for some reason and my workout clothes. And my husband questioned me about it, my earrings. And I'm like, what's up with that? I don't know. I wore my earrings. Well, to make a long story short, he thought I was having an affair. He's like, well, you've been going to the gym to work out for all this time and you're not any different. You haven't lost any weight.
Oh, I get it now. I was kind of getting it. Oh, my word. Dana, that's awful.
I know. And I was just devastated, of course. I think I probably broke down crying. At this point, it's hilarious. But at the time, I was 70 pounds overweight, working out an hour a day, 6 days a week, plus dieting. He probably didn't notice the dieting. But he obviously noticed the earrings.
That's great. Okay.
Well, Atkins, I'd done it in the past, but I got scared off because of the saturated fat.
Okay.
And I just couldn't do it. Didn't follow through. So this time I said, I'm just gonna stick with it for 2 weeks. The 2 weeks induction, just do it, and then actually read the book, because the first time I just flipped to the back to get the diet because who cares why it works?
Yeah.
So this time I'm like, okay, I'm going to read and find out why it works. So I'm reading and it's making sense, and I'm eating my hot dogs and meat and doing induction, which is 20 carbs or less. You do that for 2 weeks. And I was so sick of counting and measuring and looking at labels that I just ate what I knew didn't have any carbs, which was meat and cheese and eggs and hot dogs and sausage and pepperoni and all that good stuff.
Right.
So at first I just, I wasn't feeling right. It's just, I just could feel my arteries clogging, and I probably didn't poop and, all that fun stuff. And
yes.
I just white knuckled it. I'm like, just hang on for 2 weeks. Something's going to happen. Well, the 10th day I woke up and looked in the mirror, and I looked like I lost 15 pounds. My face, that carb puff that we see now in people, it was gone, and I'm like, wow. But I felt better. I mean, for the first time in my life, I didn't have bloating and cramping and all that digestive pain that I didn't even know I had, because it was just my normal.
Right.
And that was the main thing that made me want to stay on it, because I felt good. But I was lucky, one of the lucky ones, that I just kept losing weight. But the Atkins says you can only stay on induction for 6 months. And then you start adding back in carbs, and I'm like, well, why?
Climb the ladder, right?
Yep. And I'm like, well, why? Am I going to die? And so I just started researching, do we need carbs? And I wanted to know scientifically what the body did with, the nutrients and why we needed them. And there wasn't much back then. I somehow came across a zero carb thread in it wasn't a thread actually at this time. It was just a comments that Charles was making in Living La Vida Low Carb.
Okay.
So I lurked for a while and then joined, and he, I think, fell into it the same way I did through Atkins. And so he was journaling about it, and then I jumped in, and there were others that were starting to do it too, trying it out.
Yeah.
And then the official zero carb thread got started over there, which became wildly popular. And then we got kicked off. And then that's when Charles started the forum, and I went over with them, and we all went over there, and here we are. I downloaded the whole thread. It's in the files, I think.
Okay. And is that on zerocarbhealth.com?
I think it's in the Zyho group.
Oh, okay.
In files. So, it's in our group too.
So you and I both help admin a group. You are adminning your own group, which is Zero Carb Health on Facebook. So if you want to find Dana, she is there daily, like all day, every day, right?
Yeah, I try to take
you have a job when she's not at her job, okay? She is at Zero Carb Health. And I'm at Zeroing In on Health, and we have admin together some through the years, and we are constantly, seeing each other on these groups, helping answer the same question, tagging one another. So we're still together a lot. Okay, so, that's also, Atkins was how I came to Carnivore too, was I started off very low carb. My doctor had recommended it. And I kept feeling better, but every time I climbed the ladder, I started to gain weight. So I just started Googling. I Googled, can you eat only meat and live? Something like that. And that's when I found you and Charles and Joe and Charlene and Amber. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have started naming names because there's so many.
So many. Yeah.
BJ. Oh, that's her Facebook name. BJ.
Stage name.
Yeah. So there you were, super helpful. What's funny, and people watching this are going to find this hard to believe. People found you to be, what would be the word online?
Rude.
Rude. Say rude.
Yeah, I got called rude today.
You are to the point. And part of it is because you've been doing this a long time, and you've answered these questions, and to me, you've never been rude, but you've had the nickname The Peach through the years.
Yes.
And when I met you face to face, I was like, oh, you are so different. And I know that this is going to come through because just looking at you with your friend's cows behind you, you're just emanate to me warmth. We always joked, that I would cover everything in emojis. Everything I typed. So if I was going to type, we don't use sweeteners. Somebody's posting about, I'm drinking 14 drinks with stevia per day. Why is this carnivore diet not working? You would say, sweeteners are not zero carb, period. Here's my response. In the zero carb world, we don't use sweeteners. Heart, unicorn, heart, smiley, unicorn, rainbow. Right?
Yeah.
And so people were like, why is she so mean? Like, she's not mean at all. She's just telling it like it is.
It's just so simple. Just eat the meat. Just eat the meat as much as you want, whenever you want. Just eat the meat.
Yes. And if they want to see the long answer, they could type it in the search box and see where we've given the long, beautiful answer over and over. But the short answer is eat your meat. All right, I'm going to do some rapid fire kind of yes/no questions.
Okay.
Do you eat dairy?
Yes. Well, not as much as I used to.
Okay.
But I'll eat it.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to eat it every day, but not anymore.
Do you purposefully fast?
No, never.
Do you use any seasonings like garlic or pepper?
No, not anymore.
Okay. Do you drink coffee?
Sometimes.
Do you take supplements?
No.
Do you eat eggs?
Yes, every day.
Do you eat meats other than beef, or are you just all beef?
No, I used to be like 99% beef, but like 3 years ago I changed. That's a whole other episode.
How many times per day do you eat?
Usually twice.
And about how much do you think that comes to? I'm sure you're not weighing it out, but do you think you're eating about 2 pounds of meat per day?
At least. When I quit eating less beef, I needed more food.
Yeah.
So now I eat closer to 3 pounds. Like my breakfast alone is close to 2 pounds.
Oh, man. That's hot. That is hot.
But I don't like to be bothered with eating during the day. You know,
Okay.
I just like to eat and then work straight, and I'll eat later.
So I'm assuming that even though we say you do not purposely fast, I'm guessing that after a 2-pound breakfast of beef, you probably go a pretty long time.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah. So
I don't fast, I eat.
Perfect. Yes, the goal is, you don't want to be snacking all day.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so rumor has it that you have not used salt in 12 years.
Probably more like 10.
10 years.
Yeah.
So that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so why not?
Mostly because of the bear. The bear, he's a guy that ate only meat for over 50 years, and he was a genius. You can learn about him. I think you're going to put the link to my salt post.
Yes.
And there's a link to him. He wrote about his zero carb. He called it zero carb too, experience. And it made sense to all of us. And it's funny because we started zero carb before we even knew about him. And then when we found him, it blew our minds, the parallels in the stories and the experience. But anyway, he had 50 years more research than we did. So I totally trusted him. And he's the one that, after I read his story, I'm like, okay, I'm never eating a carb again. If this guy's been doing it for 50 years, then, that sealed the deal for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, he didn't eat salt either. And his reasonings for it just made sense to me. But the most compelling one for me was vanity. He said that salt ruins your skin. And I have that English-Irish, skin that doesn't age well. I thought, okay, I'm going to try not eating salt. Well, I was a salt addict. I wasn't a sugar person. I was a potato chip, salty stuff. So I just quit cold turkey and kind of just forgot about it. I think it was like a month, and it was just another thing to be free of. I didn't have to think about it. I don't buy it. Well, I was eating sea salt. So if I had to carry it around with me, because if I went out to eat somewhere, couldn't use table salt because it becomes like chemically, it's just too strong.
Yeah.
And so it was just one less thing I had to buy or think about or carry around, and it was freeing. And your taste buds get more sensitive. So you really can taste the meat. My husband fishes and catches trout, and I just fry them in a pan with no butter, I put butter to fry them in, or bacon grease, but I don't season it. I don't put lemon on it. And it's just so good because I can taste the fish. I'm not tasting lemon or dill or, your taste buds just get way more sensitive.
That's cool. I mean, I already know what that experience is like for taste buds to change and become more sensitive just by eliminating other foods.
Yeah.
I could see that. So my first several months of carnivore, zero carb, I did not use salt either, because you guys, when I first found zeroing in on health, y'all were kind of hardcore. There were a lot of people there who were not using any seasonings at all. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like, okay, well, that's what we do. We don't use seasonings.
Yeah.
So, I was just following in y'all's footsteps. You didn't use it. I didn't use it. And for several months, I didn't. And I felt great, but it's really hard for me to think back and distinguish, was it the salt? Because I had changed my diet so much. I was cutting out, sugar-free junk, Jell-O, and things. So, of course, I felt great. I think with or without the salt, I would have felt amazing. But it's hard for me to distinguish, like, was it the salt? And I've never, ever since then, I have just used salt to taste. At some point, I'll put some salt on my food, or maybe at a restaurant, right? They typically salt it. And I was like, oh, no, that is pretty good. I went back to using salt. And ever since then, when people ask me about salt, I would just say, well, to taste. There are days when I don't want it, so I don't use it. And there are days when I crave it, so I put more. So I've just recommended to taste. But then when I found out that you don't use it at all, I thought, I've got to talk to her about this. Do you think it's bad?
I don't think it's bad to use it as a seasoning, like any other seasoning.
Okay.
But people putting it in their water and, other than putting it on your food for taste,
yes,
I don't think that's a good thing. And mostly because when I think about diet and what's good and what's bad, I have to go back to history and the human natural diet. And we didn't salt anything. They didn't seek out salt because they needed it. It just, you don't need it.
Okay.
Well, if you're eating enough meat,
yes,
you get plenty in your meat.
I don't think most people know that you are already getting sodium naturally in your meat.
I have a feeling people who are eating way too much, putting it in their water, eating it because they're getting lightheaded. I think in a few years, 5-10 years, we're going to start seeing the fallout of that, because it's just not natural for humans to eat that much salt. It just isn't.
I don't know if you're seeing it in your group that much, but I feel like almost any person that asks a question lately, this has just been in the last few months, if someone has a question about, digestion, cramps, energy, mood, if they're having any issue, here come the swarms of people to say, you need to drink salt water. You need electrolytes. You got to use more salt. And that's one reason I wanted to talk to you, is because I keep saying you can't tell everybody that you have to use salt on a carnivore diet in order to feel good, because this lady right here feels amazing, looks amazing, your health is amazing, and you're not touching salt. So you can't say it's required. It's not. Now, maybe some individual could say they enjoy salt. Okay, cool, fine, enjoy your salt. But this recommendation suddenly that carnivores need extra, I've even heard people say that. If you're going to eat carnivore, you absolutely have to use a lot of extra salt. You've heard this, right?
Oh, yeah.
And even if you think some people do, I'm just here to present you. This is Dana, everyone. And if Dana does not have to have salt, I'm going to lean in close. This is what I do. If Dana is thriving without salt, I feel like we need to step back and say maybe it's not required for everyone, right?
Right. And I'm not a unicorn. There's a lot of us that don't use salt anymore.
No, it's true. And like I said, I've done it for several months. I didn't fall over dead. I felt great.
Yeah.
I didn't even know of any real benefit of using it or not. So when I tasted something that tasted good, I thought, well, I'll give this a try again. And I didn't feel any better or worse. I really wouldn't mind my skin looking better, though. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty sure I've heard your age before. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you are older than I am, and your skin looks amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm 53. I don't care.
Girl.
People know.
Everybody stop a second and just reflect on that. You all look good, really good. And she's not using salt. Also, when people message me about their hair falling out, and everybody swarms in and like, well, yeah, it's a known fact that carnivores have thin hair. Well, first of all, I'm like, well, dang, it's not weave, y'all. It's just regular hair. Yeah. But then there's you. Your hair is so
I've got lots of hair.
There it is.
There's her hair.
She still has her hair after 12
not bald yet.
And it's real hair, right?
Yeah, it's real hair.
I really don't feel like I have any issues that I'm wanting to fix. I mean, I'm not saying life is perfect, but I'm kind of saying life is perfect. My life is pretty good right now. I'm not trying, there are people who are out there like, I'm not losing weight as quickly as I'd like. I haven't gotten rid of all of my eczema is not quite gone. I haven't, some people are having thinning hair at the beginning while they're still losing a lot of weight. There are people who are still having issues. To which I say, if you are using a lot of salt, it might be worth, maybe this could just be mind-opening enough that somebody could throw out the idea of maybe I could actually back off of salt and see if that helps, right?
Yeah, I've seen that happen. I tell people they're having all these problems, and how much, I ask them, how much salt are you eating? And sometimes I'm shocked at how much they're drinking it and they're carrying in their purse. And I'm like, why don't you quit the salt? Because it is, there's evidence it's inflammatory. It aggravates histamine issues.
Oh.
I mean, it's linked to a lot of things that have been buried by this pro-salt movement. Mm-hmm. But, and I'm surprised at how many people these, resolve things, like at least cutting back on the salt. Just use it as a seasoning. Stop. It's not a supplement. It's not a food group.
But you really have seen pretty good results from quite a few people, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised how many people are like, yeah, you're right, I quit eating so much salt. And some people I retain water if I eat salt. And they'll be puffy ankles. I'm like, well, how much salt are you eating? Or stop eating salt for a couple of weeks, see what happens. And surprised at all some weird things, even insomnia. I'm like, just try it. I mean, try cutting out the salt. And it, there's been a lot of good results. I think salt causes more the overuse of salt. There's a difference between a seasoning and the people who are drinking it. So the overuse of it, I think, is causing more problems than helping, for sure, on this diet.
No, man, I really hope people find this helpful. Lent is coming up, and I know that doesn't mean anything to some people, but I typically do pick something to give up. And I know that the general idea of Lent is not to improve one's health necessarily. That's not why we do it. But it can be a time where you go without something, right? That then makes you, A, reflect upon your faith, and B, a lot of people do it then to experience what they would consider suffering, like during the time for their religious reasons. And then also I feel like it can be an interesting time to just experiment. What is life like without something? And maybe it would be the worst 40 days ever. And then again, maybe I would learn something. So I'm thinking that I'm feeling very inspired by you. And I'm not going to put it in stone right now, but I am going to throw it out there that I may be giving up salt for Lent this year.
You can do it.
Okay.
That's a good one. Because, it's not that hard, but it can be.
Yeah, I have joked before. People are like, ha ha, what are you going to give up for Lent? I still drink coffee, and so for Lent before, I have given up coffee. I have given up dairy, even though, like you, it's a pretty limited amount.
Yeah.
But salt would be a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, maybe we could do a follow-up so I tell you how it went for Lent. Would that be cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you, audience, would like to share your experiences with salt, whether you gave it up and felt better, I would like you, by the way, to keep your experiences that you share within a zero-carb carnivore metric. Like, if you gave up salt while you were eating vegetables and felt bad, we don't really need to know that. If you gave up salt while you were having candy bars and felt bad, no, we don't need to know. But if you were carnivore and you've experimented with more salt, less salt, and you found, changes in your health, put it in the comments below. We'll be curious to read, and we'll use that. We'll use it in our follow-up. There you go. Yeah. Hey, Dana, you rock. I love having you as a friend, and I'm so thankful you came on this show.
Well, thanks, Kelly. It was fun.
It was fun. All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.